We're talking today with Mike Chiarelli of Levant, Texas, and the interviewer is James Smither of Grand Valley State University. Okay, Mike, can you start us off with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, 1949. And then my parents, when I was about 11 or 12, they moved out to Long Island for the suburbs to raise their children at a better place. And then I stayed on Long Island. I worked. I went to barber college. I got my draft notice. I sent in. I was still in school. They let me finish. After I got out, a month or so later, I got the draft notice again.
Okay. And to back up a little bit, what did your family do for a living when you were growing up?
Oh, okay. Well, both my parents were born in Palermo, Sicily. And they came over, and my mom, she had enough education to at least take a driver's test and get her license. And my dad was a longshoreman. And I didn't know till he was a little bit older that he was pretty much illiterate. He could just sign his name, but we didn't know that. My mom was a seamstress, where she would, let's say, sew on the sleeves all day long, and she got paid according to piecework. This is back in Brooklyn. And every now and then there wasn't work with my mom and my dad, so they put us on welfare, but it wasn't for long. It could have been a week, a few days, 10 days. And I remember standing in lines and being embarrassed that my friends see me but it was there just to help out. And when it was over, they went back to work. So that was good. So really, education-wise, I think my mom made it to the 6th grade. I don't think my dad made it to even the 5th grade. So other than that, we moved out to Long Island, and he used to commute back and forth from the Long Island Railroad.
Now, was he with a union? I mean, did he get decent pay?
Yeah, he was, and the sad part of it, he was killed when I was 15. He was the Long Island Railroad back and forth. He was mugged at the train station, and there was those cops there nearby, the transit police, and they recalled 4 guys running from a situation, and the cops said that they threw my dad on the tracks, but the train, he crawled underneath, and they think he died then when he was underneath. So he wasn't mauled or anything like that.
But still.
Yeah. I was only 15, and it was really sad not to have your dad. I was always jealous of people that were older than me and still had their dad. I wished I had my dad when I was drafted. I wish I had my dad when I came home, but
Yeah. And how many other kids were there?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. I was in the middle, 2 above, 2 below. The girl came at the end, number 5.
All right. And then your older brothers, had they gone into the service or got?
My older brother, Sal, he went to Germany and Korea, but during peacetime.
Right.
And then the one right under him, he never went in or whatever because he was married with kids at the time, so
Okay.
he was, I forgot what they call that, you know.
Okay. Now, did you finish high school yourself?
Oh yes,
Okay.
I did finish high school, and I continued on to get a business associate degree, a 2-year degree.
Okay. And so now where does barber college fit into that?
Okay, that was, of course, I finished before I went in the service.
Right.
I finished bar. Well, I came back afterwards and I got a job barbering, and I was with it ever since 1971 on. I didn't stop. I've owned a salon here and there, small business, 2 or 3 chairs, more headaches than anything else. And I just found it better that I just found my niche where I would just go rent a room, and that's all I had to worry about was pay rent for the room.
Right.
And everything else was there.
Okay, so that comes a little later. Okay, now you did the business degree after you got back from Vietnam?
Yes.
Okay. So you just go to barber college after high school, you finish barber college, and then Uncle Sam takes you.
Takes me.
So when do you start basic training then?
Okay, it was in New Jersey where we were.
Fort Dix?
Yeah, Fort Dix, where we were, what's the word, indoctrinated?
Inducted, yeah.
Inducted. And from there they put us on a plane. I remember it left from Newark, Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we were there and basic training started. And it was really intimidation at the time. 40 years ago, they just got right in your face and just scared the heck out of you and just would tell you things like at night, if you're not awake, Charlie's going to come and cut your throat. And they just harassed us and made us hard, I guess. And any little thing, drop, give me 10, drop, give me 20, run, jump. Why'd you come down? I didn't ask you to come down. Get back up there, Well, peel potatoes in the mess room for hours and hours.
Did your older brother tell you anything about what to expect?
No, he never said a word.
Mm-hmm.
He never said a word, and we really never talked, and I don't remember why. I think he might have been living in California.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that's why.
Okay. Now, what time of year was it that you went down to South Carolina? The spring or 69?
It probably was the spring, yeah. May, June, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so in 69. Now, at the time you went in, how much did you know about the Vietnam War and all of that?
Very little, because I remember in junior high, even in high school, I remember saying to myself, oh, I'm sure it'll be over by the time I graduate. I don't have to worry about that. But no, it wasn't. And I remember at the induction area over there were guys that were dressed up like women, guys that were acting like they were crazy, guys that were taking off their clothes, just whatever, and walking around. They were just doing anything and everything not to get inducted. They were just doing it. And I don't know.
Were you not prepared for that?
No, I wasn't. I really wasn't. It was just kind of funny in a way. And then afterwards, they had us up in a platoon formation, so many rows. And then they just randomly, they went Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army, Air Force, Navy. I happened to be in the row that was Army.
Mm-hmm.
So I had said to myself, I remember, because I don't really like the water. I don't really know how to swim that good. And I don't really like getting on airplanes. I figured not the Air Force, not the Navy, so the Army was good.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy with that. But they harassed the heck out of you.
Yeah.
And they took everybody, even if you were 300 pounds plus, they took you. And you were slim trim when it was all over. And after the 8 weeks, it was 8 weeks, I believe, the basic, they sent us to AIT, which I believe stands for
Advanced Individual
Training. Yeah.
Okay. With the basic training there at Fort Jackson, you said were there people who just couldn't do it, or did they basically keep everybody?
You mean couldn't go through the basic training?
Yeah.
Well, there might have been a couple of three that we didn't see. They were gone, they weren't there, but then also maybe they were gone and maybe one came back.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess some of them were they couldn't make it. I guess they just mentally couldn't make it.
Well, I'm asking because in other times you might wash out a lot of people who really aren't fit, but if they really need the people.
Yeah, they take everybody.
They
still took people that were very overweight.
Mm-hmm.
But these days, forget about it. You're 3 pounds overweight, they're going to have you lose that before you sign up.
Right. Okay. Now, what kind of shape were you in when you went in?
Oh, I was really pretty good. I was kind of really skinny. I was 5'6", 118 pounds, 24-inch waist.
Mm-hmm.
So I was okay. I mean, I never really exercised. I guess it was just my makeup. I was just thin, skinny.
Okay. And were you able to handle the physical training okay?
Oh yeah, I was fine. I did it. There was that fear, that intimidation that you did things that you didn't think you could, and you did them anyway. So.
All right. And then how easy or hard was it for you to adjust to the discipline part?
Well, really under my breath, when we were in formation and the drill sergeant would walk up and down, I would try to keep a smirk off my face, because I'd be telling myself, this is not, they're just doing this to us. That I shouldn't get, and a couple of times the drill sergeant would say something to me about, what's going on with you? What are you doing? I said, nothing. I don't know. Yes, sir. No, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sergeant.
Yeah.
Drill sergeant. Okay, well, you just drop. Give me a number 10, 20. I don't know. Just do it and get up again. I guess he caught the expression on my face, because I just try to tell myself this isn't real. They're not going to hurt us.
Now, did the atmosphere change as you got to the end of the training, or were they the same to you the whole time?
No, same the whole time.
All right.
The whole time.
Okay. Now, so you finished the 8 weeks of basic, and now you go on to AIT, and where do you do that?
It was Fort Jackson,
State?
South Carolina,
Okay.
also the AIT. and I did, well, they trained me for infantry.
Mm-hmm.
I was a grunt. The M16, they put me in mortars also. I called them war games in a sense because it wasn't real, but they were preparing us. They were war games. We had to do this or do that. We had to fire a certain amount, hit the targets, just different things. Introduced us to different things like a 60 caliber machine gun, a 50 caliber anti-aircraft weapon. They even brought in a attack helicopter. I can't think of the name of what it was then. They were, I think they're Apaches these days.
But were they Cobras?
Cobras.
Yeah.
They were Cobras, and they were giving us a demonstration that it was so far off, and it put around like that, and it even landed, and we got to look and do whatever. So that was, and little did I know that one day I'd be in the bush, and there were the Cobras helping us. You know, without all of that, air support, artillery, I don't know. There would be more than 58,000 names on the wall.
Yeah.
There really would be. It was really a terrible war. It shouldn't have happened. It was terrible. There wasn't a line to where you say you're not in enemy lines, you're here, you're safe here, so you don't have to pull any guard duty, you could sleep all you want and everything. There was nothing like that, nothing whatsoever. I mean, I'm jumping, but after AIT was crazy, they sent me to Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. Well, anyway, they had me shoot and qualify with a .45 for 3 weeks. We were out there, me and about 6 other guys from 9 to 5. And you were there till 6 or 7 at night if you didn't qualify that day. And we shot at silhouettes all day long. And I don't know, after the first week or so, I think we were there 3 weeks, I asked the sergeant, I said, why did they send me here? Are they doing this to me? He said, you must have scored something somewhere on the test, and they just don't have an opening yet, so they're just kind of moving you around.
All right. I want to back up a little bit back into the AIT part of things.
Okay.
So they're having you do sort of field exercises where you're kind of going out in the woods or whatever and pretending it's Vietnam?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have instructors who had been to Vietnam?
I would say yes. Yes, most definitely. I think they all were. In fact, at the very end of the training, it was something, we had to go on a course, and we had a compass with us, 2 or 3 guys together, and then they had us low crawling. Really, you had to stay down like that and crawl with your 16 like this, and because right up above you was wire, barbed wire, you didn't want to lift up, and these rounds would be going, and they would tell us that you don't lift up your head, they're real, the rounds are real, so don't, and I don't know if they were or they weren't, but of course no one lifted up their head. You know, it was, I don't know what was more frightening than that, to see all these things, and machine gun fire, you know, so it was like, we called it low crawl, like this, flat, low crawl, and of course that really came into play when I was in the jungle a number of times. It taught me how to stay real low and do the little bit of this that we could, because certain areas were open a little bit. Otherwise it was triple canopy jungle. It was unbelievable.
Okay. So at least some part of what you got in training wound up being useful later.
I believe so, yes, most definitely. And even to be able to shoot my M16, to be decent at it and to feel comfortable with it. And, you know, they taught us in training how to take it apart and put it back together in a matter of, you know, I don't know, under a minute. You could probably do it maybe under 30 seconds. And all of that came into play when we had that downtime. Really, all of us, we cleaned our weapons, took it apart, cleaned it. And you know, they said the M16 was inferior. It was inferior to the AK-47. It really was. But we never had a jam problem with it whatsoever. I think if everybody kept it clean, it would have been okay. But that AK-47, I believe it was from Russia. It was a superior weapon. And till today, you know, I could hear that crack it made. Till today, they have me diagnosed with 70% PTSD. It's okay, you can leave it on.
Right.
Just,
Right. Okay.
just no one really knows. You know, you're scared.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows. You just don't know until you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very frightening. And the whole time I was there, I never saw one goop or
Yeah.
NVA body,
Mm-hmm.
even though we were being fired upon and they were tossing in RPGs. And then when we approached the hill from the LZ, this was after the Cobras were in, we still approached it with care. And there was one guy, he was dead, and he was by no means Asian whatsoever. The man was tall, broad shoulders, and he looked Russian.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard through the grapevine that the captain said it did help. He had some papers on him, but I don't know why they didn't take him away. Maybe he was just too heavy to carry.
Yeah.
And I was kind of one of the new guys, myself and this other guy, and the sergeant or whatever said, "You, Chiarelli, and you, grab him by the ankles and you grab him by his shoulders." And I said, "We're going to need 3 people. This guy is huge." And they just, toss him in the foxhole.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed so sad. It was a body, it was a human being.
Right.
And I just felt so hurt by it. And I thought to myself, why are we even here?
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. All this bloodshed, I just didn't understand it.
Some part of it there is you kept some part of who you were and your own humanity, and you're still using it at that point, which makes it harder to be a soldier. Let's go back and kind of follow you sort of in sequence.
All right, so
you've done you
the
kind of
45 where
yeah,
I
you
was
had
in
45 at
okay.
Aberdeen.
All right, so after that 3 weeks, then they sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky. What are these guys doing? So I go there, and everybody was a Vietnam returnee vet. And I thought to myself, oh my God, they're going to make it so hard for me. But they were the nicest guys ever. And I even, because you got a day off if you volunteered to give blood, they said it was for the Vietnam veterans, you would get the day off. And I did do that one day. And like I said, they were very nice to me. We played war games with tanks and APCs, Army Personnel Carrier.
Yeah.
And in the APCs, sometimes there was a platform where they had the mortar tube, okay, and tanks, and I drove tanks, and it was fun, and it was even got there snowed one day, and doing this, and we were skidding, but it was fun. All the guys were really, really nice to me, and then I finally got my orders to go to Vietnam, and I remember telling the guys, and I didn't think much of it, but when I got to Vietnam, I realized the expression on their face when I told them I was going to Vietnam. I said to myself, that's why they looked that way, because they knew.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it was terrible. You get off the plane, and honestly, it smelled like feces. It really did. A lot of guys said the same thing. So, I don't know, from there they put me on a bus, and the bus had bars on it, so this way they couldn't throw grenades and whatnot in there, and it was terrible.
Now, do you know where you landed? Were you at Tan Son Nhut or
Could it be
Long Binh or Benoit or one of those?
Could it be Phu Bai?
You could have landed at Phu Bai, sure. I mean, it's less. Phu Bai is probably most people fly into Vietnam and they would land usually at Cam Ranh Bay or Tan Son Nhut or.
I think it was Cam Ranh Bay.
Yeah, and then they would have flown you from there up to Phu Bai.
Phu Bai, right.
Yeah.
That's when I was on the C-130 for the
Okay.
first time.
I want to just to fill out the story a little bit. You do 3 weeks in Aberdeen Proving Grounds, then you're at Fort Knox, and now were you actually assigned to a regular unit, or were you just waiting or training?
Yeah, no, I was assigned. I forgot the actual name.
Mhm.
I was in the motor pool, I believe,
Yeah.
possibly. And no, I was assigned there to a unit
Okay.
there.
So they weren't sending you. So but you to this day you don't really know what they thought you were supposed to be doing.
No.
Okay.
Even though I put down on the application I wanted to be a cook,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Okay. And how long were you at Fort Knox?
probably, probably 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 months, and then I got my orders.
Okay. But late enough into the year that there was snow on the ground one day when.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. So
there
you're out
was.
there. Now, so you went to Vietnam. Now, is it now going to be, you think, so in early 1970 now that you actually go over there? Or is it still,
Yeah, it was, because I was there 70, 71.
Right. Okay, so you go over there, okay, and they've taken you and you go up to Phu Bai, and that's the base for the 101st Airborne Division.
I don't know if everybody, if it was a mixture, but that's where you were, transit.
Yeah.
They got orders to go wherever. Because
Right.
every morning in formation, the sergeant would call out.
Mhm.
And I remember when I called up my name and he signed me to the 101st Airborne, after formation broke, I went up to him and I said, Sergeant, I says, I never was trained to jump out of an airplane. I never did this. I says, I'm going to be a POW. My legs are going to break or something. Take it easy, soldier. Take it. It's airborne, air mobile. You're fine. Airborne, air mobile, air mobile. We made assaults with the Huey. We were on the Huey choppers that took us to different hilltops, and some of them were hot, LZ as we called them, hot landing zone, and some of them weren't. But I believe most of the time we knew when they were hot. The captain kind of knew. And the choppers, the Hueys, barely, they wouldn't hit ground. They just hover real low. And I remember the door gunner would tap me on the head, go. And that was another scary situation when it was a hot LZ, because you could see bullets or rounds hitting the dirt that you're going to jump into, and you're going, oh my God, you're dead, But then there was a situation with the same thing. There was some clearing. I jumped and I stayed low, and I low crawled right up to behind a big tree. And so did the other guys do the same thing. They all did that. And we were putting down fire with the M16, but you really weren't sure if you were really hitting anything or anybody, because it was a thick jungle. And it's like I even said to myself, what am I shooting at? I said, I really don't want to kill anybody anyway. That's kind of how I felt. And it was triple canopy jungle. You couldn't until the Cobras came in and they did their thing back and forth, and hopefully by then you say it was pretty clear, and then they gave orders to advance up to the hilltop. And that's what we did with caution, and we got up there, and it was fine. It was safe at that point. It was safe. We were up there. Oh yeah, that's right. On that hilltop 805, when we first got off and laying down flyer, the 60 gunner, machine gunner, and he had an assistant with him always, and all the other grunts we would carry 2 or 3 bandanas, so we could pass it down the line. I don't know how, but they hit him. He was wounded, the 60 gunner, because he was laying down fire. So I don't know how the heck he got shot, but he got CA'd right away, and then the assistant gunner took up, and someone right next to him helped the assistant gunner. And I don't know how he got hit, unless it was shrapnel from an RPG or something. I don't know, but they took him away, and he was okay. We knew he was okay. So anyway, we're at 805, and we were there at least 3 nights. It might have been 4 nights, but every night we got hit. Every night. And then at night, they'd call in artillery also, and they'd call in, we call it Puff the Magic Dragon, because they had these, I think, of 55 millimeter rounds that were on this round thing that would just keep rotating.
Minigun.
Yeah, that's what that, and it looked like a dragon with fire. And they would do that just about every night, every night. But every night we also had it, we called it LP, from that perimeter. Outside the perimeter, maybe 25 yards, you would go out, you and 2 or 3 other guys, because you would, share the guard duty to stay awake. And we were out there with a radio, and you would hit the button as if to talk, and that would mean you would squelch it. So I don't remember what it was. 1 for no movement, 2 for movement, if we heard anything, to make them aware of it. So I remember, and the biggest thing was, they said, don't take your weapon with you. And I remember this guy, my dearest friend, who was killed, he liked me, and he was there before me. And he said, it's okay, Charlie, it's fine, don't take your weapon, you're okay. He says, because you're going to be running. He says, and that with the weapon is only going to hinder you. And so we were out there on LP, and eventually, that's the most scariest thing, we were starting to hear movement until that movement went into RPGs shooting. And that's when we all got up and we ran, and we're running towards the perimeter, and we yelling stuff like Yankee Stadium, Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty, just to let them know it was us breaking through the perimeter and not the NVA.
Okay.
That I don't know what's more scary than that, to be on LP listening post.
Yeah. Okay. Let's to kind of go back and help the outside people kind of follow your story. So you get out to Vietnam, and I think you thought it was probably, so it's early 1971, but it's not too early because you joined. What specific unit did you join within the 101st? Which
I was
company?
with the 2nd 506 B Company.
Okay, the 2nd Battalion, 506
Infantry
Right.
B Company, 2nd Platoon.
Okay. Now, do you remember now? Because you and let's see, I think you told me this off camera, but how did they get you out to your unit? When you come into Phu Bai, and then
with a Huey chopper.
Okay.
A Huey chopper. Yeah, it had come in, and that's when RPGs came by and the 60 gunners opened up, and I was the only one on the thing, and I'm going, I want my mom.
Yeah.
And so they brought us to an LZ, a landing thing, and I remember someone came right to the chopper and got me off. He said, "You go over there." There were like 3 other guys in the woods, and they were, I don't know what they were, but of course they were very, very nice. And they said, "Take off your rucksack," because it wasn't done properly. I didn't know how to do it or whatever. You think they would have taught us to do that, but they didn't. But they fixed it up for me. That made it more comfortable for me. And the rucksack, the rucksack. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, basically, you actually got some help right away from the guys in the squad that you joined.
Oh, yeah, I did.
So they're looking at, because sometimes in some places they just didn't say much of anything to the new guy, and sometimes they did. But so you had guys who had been there a little longer who were going to show you the ropes and what to do.
They were very nice. Yes, they were. They really were.
All right.
They had empathy for you. They really did.
Okay, and do you remember like who the squad leader was or who your platoon leader was at that point?
No, but months into it, I don't know what happened to my squad leader. I don't remember. But all of a sudden, I was in charge, and I was a Spec 4. But then this sergeant came in. He was we called him Shake and Bakes. You know, he came in and he was assigned. He took over. We talked to him. And I remember that first night in the foxhole. Of course, you take turns pulling guard duty to stay awake. And that morning into late morning, he came out to me and he said, "You pushed the clock ahead so this way you could go back to bed." And I was meaning he was. I said, "No, I didn't. I would never do anything like that. I don't know why you're saying that." So I went right to my lieutenant, Lieutenant Hand, and he knew who I was. And he goes, "Chiarelli, don't worry about it. Wherever you want to go, which squad you want to go in." So I did, and I was there with that squad till I left. And there was this guy, Roberto Flores, and he really turned out to be really my best of friends. And he's the one that helped me when about going out to the listening post. Just not that he didn't help everybody else, but you know, he goes, "Are you Spanish?" I don't know. I says, "I'm Italian American," but that's okay. They take me for Jewish, Greek, whatever. And my hair was black, Middle Eastern really. And I thought he was. He says, "No." He says, "I'm Mexican. I don't think I heard the term Hispanic till we moved to Texas." Yeah. But he was real nice with me. And for the longest time, he told all the guys, he said, you know, if in few words or less, you know, I don't want to curse, he said, whoever blank with Chiarelli, they're going to blank with me, so just don't mess. And he was really, really nice.
didn't make it.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He was killed on Ripcord.
All right. Now you're joining your unit, and this is probably kind of sometime after the Ripcord base has actually been established. And so there's a base on a hilltop, and the companies of your battalions sort of take turns patrolling around the hills and the jungle around the base. And you've been talking a little bit about some of what that was like. About when you were being on the Hill 805 at a certain point, and there you actually stayed in the same place for several days, which is
Right.
dangerous because the enemy knows where you are.
Exactly, yeah.
All right. Now, most of the time, would you stay in a different place each night as you were patrolling?
No, not really. We would probably like 2 or 3 nights, really.
Okay.
But Hill 805 was the worst. I believe we would have 4 nights, and every night we got hit. But then there was also Hill 1000, and they would get hit also.
Hmm.
I can't remember the other one, if it was 900 or what, I don't remember.
Well, there was one called 902, and that's where C Company got hurt bad
Oh, that's it then.
early in the battle. Now, when you're out in the field, kind of for an extended period, how long would you be out in the jungle before you go back to a base camp?
It's terrible. At least 60 days, at least. And you would hope to go back and you could take a shower and you have a hot meal and what was I going to say? Yeah, formation. What we wanted out in the field for supplies was extra socks. Just even if they were dirty, they'd be dry for your feet, because then we would hang the wet ones on our rucksack, just dry. But they keep ordering them, and they never get them. They never send them out. And after maybe the second time I went back in the rear, I had enough nerve to go up to the lieutenant and say, you know, what's with the socks? He goes, well, how many do you want? I said, well, just one, because I have these. So he got me 2 pairs, and I gave 1 pair to somebody else. And just so you could keep your feet dry, that's all you wanted. You didn't want wet socks all the time. And somebody said the supply sergeant was not found or heard of after a while, because he was giving stuff to the enemy. He was giving it to them, selling it or doing what, I don't know. And here our guys in the boonies needed something so basic, and we couldn't have it to make it a little bit better for us out there, just a little bit. Hated it. I mean, every night, you know, we had to stay awake for guard duty every night, you know. Rained, whatever. You could go to sleep, you know, in the rain, or wake up in the rain, or go to sleep wet. And for some reason our fatigues would dry by the morning. I don't know why, but they would dry at that material or the body heat. But it was, somebody says, well, don't you have a poncho? I go, no, it's war. A poncho would hinder you with the weapon and whatnot. No, it was nothing. You know, some places there wasn't even a foxhole at night. We didn't even dig in. We just slept right on the ground. Right on the ground.
Now, would you not dig in because you couldn't dig in, or just they just didn't get orders to?
You know, I don't remember, but I'm sure it was, don't dig in tonight. And we didn't. And for some reason or another, those nights where we didn't dig in, we never got hit.
I mean, it may be that they, at least the commanders had at least some intelligence for kind of where the enemy might be or what was going on.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Or maybe you just got lucky. But I guess also there could be a lot of tree roots in the soil, or just be rock. So,
Yeah.
you know, who knows. But anyway, now when things were not too hot and there wasn't a lot of contact, what's a typical day like out in the jungle?
Well, of course, you know, you weren't battling every second, every minute of every day. There was downtime, you know, obviously. And that was the time where we would just kind of do nothing. We knew it was kind of secure. We'd take off our boots and socks and make sure our feet were dry, clean our weapons. There might be a package from home, a care package, and we all shared it, whoever got it. And I remember one I got, my mom sent me a can of mushrooms, and at the time it must cost under $1, I'm sure, for a can, but this forward observer lieutenant just got assigned to us, and I got the care package and I opened it up, and a can of mushrooms, and he said something, I think he said, oh, I'll give you $15 for that. I said, no. I says, we just all share. And then I believe he went to 20, And I said, no, honestly, we just all share. Everybody has a plastic spoon and just pass it around. And luckily for him, a lot of the guys didn't like the mushrooms, so he had a bigger portion. But he wanted the whole can. But he got quite a bit of it. And like I said, whoever got a care package, we all divided it up. We all shared it. There might have been a letter in there, photos we passed around. And anybody who you were with, if they were just even from the same state as you felt the closeness to them. You know, you felt the closeness. That would be it, because most of the times we were humping the boonies.
Yep.
We were just going. It felt like a 45-degree angle. And I remember one time we needed water, and there was, we called it the blue line water running down, and the captain had the medic hand out water purification tablets, and I didn't know any difference. You put it in, you put the water, but you know, from that point on, I think all of us had dysentery after we drank that. Because come to think of it, who knows what was in that stream? I mean, it was terrible. I mean, after a while, we didn't even bother asking for any boxer shorts underwear. We didn't want it anymore. It was just too much trouble. We didn't wear it anymore. It was just easy to do without it. And I remember that, I mean, when you get that feeling that you got to go, at one time I was taking up the rear. We were on a squad going in, and pretty much I was probably that far away from the next guy, or maybe a little further. It hit, and I had to drop my pants, and I thought to myself, oh my God, please, I hope I don't become a prisoner, because I couldn't see them, I couldn't yell, so I did it as quick as I could, and I ran. But I thought, oh my God, am I going to be captured? You know, so that dysentery, boy.
How long did you have that?
Oh, it felt like all year, on and
Okay.
off.
All
A
right.
lot of the guys, the same thing. You know, just like the jungle rot or nail fungus from your feet being wet. And even the jungle rot comes back every now and then. I don't know why, after all these years, you just start scratching somewhere, and then it festers, and a big whatever, and it goes through its cycle, and then it scabs, and then it's done. But why that still comes back, I don't know.
So you didn't get malaria, but
No.
you got a lot of other things instead.
Yeah, we
It
did.
made it difficult. Now, what would you normally eat out in the field?
Well, we had the sea rations, and it ranged from ham and eggs to beef with potatoes to franks and beans, which everybody, of course, wanted the franks and beans, especially the new guys. I mean, to open up eggs in a can like that, and oh my God. But, you know, after a while, everybody started eating everything. We just ate everything, and then occasionally we would have a Kid Carson Scout come out with us, and he was South Vietnamese, I guess, yeah. And he would carry bags of rice, and he wanted the meat, and we wanted the rice, so we exchanged. And we would just make our own dishes with rice and throw the beef in there with a ham or whatever it is, and make our own dishes. But it was good. I mean, it tasted good. After a while, it tasted really good.
Well, you needed the food.
You definitely
You're
needed
burning
the
off
food.
a lot of calories
Yes,
when you're out there.
yes, we were.
All
We
right.
were.
Okay. Now, do you remember who your company commander was when you joined the company?
Yeah, it was Captain Williams.
Okay. What sort of character was he?
Well, till today, he comes to the reunions. He isn't here this time because he had a hip replacement. And he was very nice. I mean, it was referred to as the old man. You know, he was about 27, 28, and we were 19, 20, 21. So, but I guess really he knew. I always said he brought us home, you know, he made us safe. Besides everybody else under him, you know, they took his direction, and a lot of times when we get to a site to dig in, you know, our first superiors, whoever they are, they could be a Spec 4 or PFC, it was passed down. Captain said, do like zero silence as much as you can. So, you know, try to make the littlest noise as possible, even when you dig in a little bit more. And usually those were the times that we'd get hit, believe it or not. It was crazy, and I thought to myself, they know we hear it because we're not completely silent. And I remember one guy that he was supposed to go out on LP, and he refused to, and he refused an order, and he didn't want to go. Well, everybody was scared, so he didn't go. And I don't know, he was a different culture, but I didn't know why. But the next day he got CA'd out to back to the rear, and we never saw him after that. Somebody said he probably would have gotten an Article 15, which was kind of like you might say a traffic ticket or something. They would take some of his pay, but I could understand it. We were all scared. I mean, everybody was scared. It was just terrible. And on Ripcord, with my friend who was killed July 21st, he used to volunteer for duties, assignments throughout the hill, and he always did too much. And I think only 2 people know this, but like I said, he took care of me, and he said, no, you don't go, Chiarelli, I'll go this time. I said, but you do more than me. No, it's okay, you stay. And that's the day he got killed. And the lieutenant came down to let us know. I was in my foxhole with a couple other guys. I wanted to run out to go see him, and the lieutenant says, get back in that hole, don't leave without your M16, get back in there. But for some reason it was really quick. They already had him wrapped up, and a chopper took him away. And it just happened like that. Sometimes a body could be there for days, but I guess it was just timing that chopper was there, and he took him away, so I didn't get to see him. And I try up till today to contact somebody, his wife, his uncle, his brother, but nothing. I don't. And it's really funny because I was from New York then, and he was from Texas, which I didn't even know he was from Brownsville. So I looked up his information, and it said Brownsville, Texas. And then I said to myself, well, it's the Holy Spirit, that we moved to Texas, that I'm close to Brownsville. I says, I don't know, maybe one of these days we might find somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's got to be tough because Flores is a fairly common name, so...
It's like John Smith.
Yeah, you're really kind of tough there, but do you feel like, he sort of, that should have been you?
Yeah, I live with guilt.
Yeah.
I really do.
And that's a very, very direct case.
I live with guilt. And we know he went to Hawaii on his R&R to go meet his wife with his infant child that he didn't see.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he was so happy. He showed us pictures and everything. And it was either that day or the next day he was killed. I don't remember, but it was July 21st.
Right.
I knew it was July 21st because July 23rd we evacuated.
Okay. Now, in the campaign that you were part of, Ripcord campaign, it's already going in April when you get there. So there's a base on the hilltop, and the companies take turns doing base security. And your company was doing security in the last couple of weeks of the battle.
Yes.
Had you been up there earlier?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about that. The time that you're spending and patrolling around on the different hills, did you get a stand down? Did you go back to Camp Evans at some point before the later battle? Not that you can remember.
Nothing, because from Hill 805, after the 3-4 nights, the captain said, I'm going to hump over the Ripcord. It's a fire base. It'll give you guys a little bit of a rest.
Right.
And we would be securing the perimeter of Ripcord. And to us, that was like almost going on vacation, because it would be someplace stationary that all we had to do was, take care of the guard duty at all times out. There was the concertina wire, and we would, at night, any movement, we would fling grenades, anything. And some of us were able to, they call it a starlight telescope, where you saw images, and you swear you saw images, and you heard noise, and you fling grenades, but the next morning nothing was there. And in fact, the day before, or the 2 days before, another sergeant was assigned to my squad, Dale Faulkner, and he was in a hole. It was his first day, and he was a shake and bake, and he goes, well, what do we do? I said, well, they want us to get rid of as much of this as possible, so were just going to fling grenades just randomly out there. And him and I were in the hole, standing, and right behind us was a bunker where you could crawl in to sleep when it was your turn. And I don't think anybody else was in there at the time. But all of a sudden, he says, Chiarelli, get out of the hole, get out of the hole. So, instinctively, I just put my hands like that, and I got out, and I went like this because I thought I was going to hear an explosion. And I did. And then he goes, Chiarelli, help me. He didn't jump out. For some reason, this guy's over 6 feet, and he tried to go in the hole. He had dropped a grenade right in the hole. So it was so dark, to probably try and do this was nothing. But he tried to go in, and he got in up to his waist, and the grenade went off, and he had it all in here. And he even, back in '04, I put out the word, if this guy comes in that I brought up to top, I helped him, and then he was looking for me, and we finally met, and the first thing he says to me was, thank you for saving my life. And I never thought I saved his life. All I ever thought was I helped him. But we both said that at that particular time when he called me over, and I had to help drag him out because he was 6 feet, and he had his arm over my shoulders, and we're going like this. And remember, we both said, I think at the same time, we could both be killed. And we both said, yeah, I know. So I went all the way up top to headquarters, where somebody was having me yell, what the blank are you done? I said, he's hurt. Oh, okay, go ahead, go. We got him. I said, okay. And then on my way down the hill, and I don't know why I could kick myself that I didn't take my 16 with me. As I'm on my way down, I thought, oh my God, I'm dead. I'm dead. And then there were, the perimeter foxhole, but then up a little ways there were more foxholes, more like a bunker that the lieutenant was in, and the little space, and the rifle would go in there. And he saw this person out, and I remember him yelling, so you got the blank in that foxhole. What the blank are you doing out of the hole? You're going to get it tomorrow. Blah, 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 blah. And that was Lieutenant Hand. But he didn't know. No, I'm not sure who eventually found out that I helped Dale. And you know what's going on with him today? He's in hospice with brain cancer. It's been 11 months now. They only gave him 4 months, but and I met him every year anyway. I always found him and he found me, and we just kind of hugged and talked a little bit. He was really a nice guy, but I would have never known it was him. He would have never known it was me. But this reunion kind of brought us together,
right?
And that was nice. And he told me, he said that they really took care of him, and that he wore a colostomy bag for a little bit. And he says back then they automatically gave him a 30% service connection disability. I didn't even know what that was, to tell you the truth. But he was okay. He was fine. And I guess maybe he was supposed to be saved or helped to live his life out because he married. I'm not sure if he has any children, but we all know him, and most of the people know the story because they were all looking out for me, and they were all looking out for him to find one another.
Right.
Yeah. And as it turned out, one reunion I was sitting, and there was the back of another chair, and the guy sitting that way, and I asked Bob Judd, I said, Bob, any news on the guy that I helped? He goes, yeah, he's sitting right behind you. Yeah, so that was something. I'm just so, and I never knew that I saved his life. I never looked at it that way. But that's the first thing he said to me. The first thing. All I really did was help him. I just did my job. I believe anybody else would have done the same thing.
A little bit of broader question. There's a lot of stereotypes and stuff about morale of units in Vietnam and that kind of thing. Now, in your case, within your platoon or your company that you served with, is it your impression that most of the guys just did their job?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I hate to bring up, African Americans, but back then, and not all, but a good part of them, they made complaints that they needed to be on profile. If you were on profile, you can't go out in the woods. And they said that we were discriminating against them because they had put all the black people out in the boonies, and it wasn't so. I mean, in our company with 4 platoons, each platoon 30 each, you know, if there was 1 or 2 black guys, it was a lot. And the black guys that were out there, they were okay. They were good with us, we were good with them. It's the other ones, because when we came in the rear for stand down, they were in the chow line waiting, you know, to eat a hot meal. And what they did during the day was they did whatever, fill sandbags or did KP duty. They just busy work. They didn't want to deal with them anymore, so they just put them in the rear. And back then, those black guys, when they used to meet, they, you know, do this.
Yeah, it's the whole black power thing.
Yeah, all this
time.
stuff. And you'd see them on the chow line doing that. You know, so it's like, and you just shook your head. You shook your head.
And that seems to have been stuff that came over from the States, because by then at home, they were convinced that, you know, they were sending all of the black guys out to do the fighting and stuff, and so that's what they know when they take it with them. And so that was peculiar at the time. But the guys who were in the field with you were
They were
like
fine.
everybody else. Yeah.
They were fine. In fact,
Yeah.
the one black guy, he was a sergeant. He was great. He was great. And I just always remember my friend Roberta M. Flores, which is, I guess I'll see him up there.
Yeah. All right. So you had spent, you know, extended time, a couple of months worth of time out in the field, out with your company, and now you get, it's early July when you go up to the hill?
It was, I want to say July 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's your company's turn now to do security for the top of Ripcord.
Right.
All right. And describe a little bit just what the base looked like in terms of and how things were laid out for you.
Well, the outer perimeter is what we did, Company B. We do the outer perimeter. And in front of the perimeter, maybe 30 feet, there was barbed wire, concertina wire, which I didn't know the term concertina wire until I went there. And it was like all around the whole thing. And then closer into the top, there'd be also dugout bunkers. That sandbags on them, and you were well protected. You were just able to stick out your whatever. And usually that would be for the officers, the lieutenant, we called it CP command post would always be in the inside, just like we were out in the booties and we dug a perimeter. CP would be right in the middle, and that was the captain, the RTO, whatever. And they also stood watch for guard duty too. They had to stay awake. It was so frightening that Hill 805 with those RPGs coming in and small arms fire and guys screaming and yelling and help me, please help me. I remember 2 or 3 guys I was in the hole with, because when I ran from the LP, I just jumped in the first hole and they go, you're fine, Charlie, you're okay, it's okay, are you hit? I said, no, I'm not. He said, all right, just stay down, and I remember just sitting on the ground like this and looking and things going over my head. And I really thought I was going to die, but they were, Charlie, it's fine, just stay there, we got it. And I don't even remember those guys' names or anything. So then there was the second perimeter closer to the top. And then it was the top, which was called headquarters. And headquarters would be all the officers, all the military, whatever. The artillery was there, and I always thought that artillery had it easy, but no, this artillery did not have it easy, because they would get shelled a lot, because that's where a lot of the artillery was shooting out into the boonies to help the guys, and they wanted to get that artillery, you know, knock it out of commission. And believe me, that last day, I go to the last day, or I go to the night before the lieutenant came down to the perimeter in the foxholes, and he says, we are going to evacuate at first light, and there are these Navy ships out there that could shoot these big guns, and we're just hoping they're going to be close but not hit the perimeter. So when he said we were evacuating, as soon as he left, I remember turning around to the guys, I says, we're running. And we were running, because that morning when we did, evacuate, it was like my foxhole was the next to go. I don't know why, but the two guys I was with got out before me, and they were going, Chiarelli, hurry up, they're coming through the wire, hurry up. And I just said to myself, I don't even want to turn around. I don't even want to turn around. But it was, it was pretty steep, so they weren't that close. But we made it to the top, and there was somebody up there that wait to the chopper. And, sometimes the chopper would come in, but then it'd take off again, because it was getting hit too much. And then it was, go, you guys, go. And I just remember running, and I remember dropping my M16. And for a split second, I thought to stop and pick it up. And I said, no. I said, no, I'm not picking it up. And I remembered in training, they said something like, if you lose it, I remember $175. Why that stuck in my head, I don't know. But no, they gave me another one. It was no big deal. But we evacuated, the choppers came in, they went back to Camp Evans, and then they totally B-52'd the whole thing. They just flattened it all out. There was nothing. They said that later on, people went back and there were some bunkers. These were bunkers that were closer to the hill where you were able to stand up in them. And there were Americans that were burnt. They used flamethrowers. And they said that these are the guys that for some reason had a fear that didn't want to come out. And and I always said to myself, whoever was their superior probably should have been aware of that and dragged them out or something. I'm not blaming it on them, but I would think that if this other guy is with you, you need to help him. Come on.
Of course, there's no reports of any missing in action out of the companies. Everybody was accounted for in one fashion or another. So it may be that that's a story that got passed at some point. If you were just hearing it from other guys and weren't sure where they heard it from, it could be. It was like you mentioned that when you're leaving, they're telling you there's people coming up the hill, and as far as we can tell, there wasn't anybody coming up the hill yet.
No,
at least not by the aerial observation. But in the middle of all this, because when you're in your fighting position, you can't see very much of the perimeter or anything else.
It's dark.
Yeah, it's dark, and you don't really know what's out there. But even during the day, you only would have a limited field of view. Now, in your fighting position where you were, now the Ripcord is a hill. Now, are you partway up the slope, or are you right at the base of it, or?
Pretty much, just about on the bottom. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and there were sort of other hills around, and would the enemy try to fire? Did you ever take direct fire at you, or was it just mortar fire and rockets that came in?
No, I don't recall any direct fire. No, mortars, rockets. I guess the RPGs were rockets.
Rocket grenade, but they're the bigger rockets.
Yeah, they are. Well, the bigger ones, those were the 110s, I think.
Yeah.
The Scud missiles or something.
Well, not that big, but bigger rockets.
Yeah.
That get launched. Now, when you first went on there, I think officially the way they do the history of the battle is sort of the 1st of July is when you begin to get a regular bombardment, but slowly got worse. Now, on July 4th or so, when you came in, was there mortar? Did you come in helicopters, or did you walk in?
No, we walked. We humped from 805 to Ripcord, and we came up in it. And we thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened to us. We really did. And we were just assigned foxholes. And we all thought, oh, this is so nice. This is great. But then we started hearing the rounds. The round. That's why that lieutenant yelled at me, because it was out of the foxhole. I was coming down from Fort Court. And my friend Roberta, they had us wear flak jackets, okay, and the lieutenant would always tell him to make sure you button it, and he never really wanted to button it, and he had a round came in and a piece of shrapnel hit his heart. That was it. But I guess it was meant to be. It really was. And then up top, where headquarters was, they had hot meals. There was a cook up there.
Yeah, there was a cook up there.
Yeah, so they had hot. We never had them. Well, I take that back. I think we did get them once in a while, where somebody brought something down to us, or one of us went out and bought food for the guys. I take that back. We did have some of them, yeah. We did, but so it was a lot easier with our C rations. We had, you know, more area, more whatever, and we used to use C4. And even though they said you can't do that, he let us use it. We used it to heat up our food.
Because this is a plastic explosive, and you can break off a little piece of it and light it. And
Exactly, plastic. Yeah, I think today it's on TV in Hollywood they use a C4 a lot. Yeah.
Well, yeah, special effect explosions. Okay. Now this tape is about out. So okay. Now we were talking about sort of the situation on the Ripcord Fire Base in July, and particularly as we're getting close to the point where you were talking about evacuating and getting off. But the whole time you were there, the place was under bombardment. Now,
Every day.
And now, from your fighting positions, did much land around you, or did it normally land up on top?
Yeah. Well, we had the same when we were over there. If you could hear it, it's going over you. And if you don't hear it, it could be in the front or whatever, and you might not be there. But I would say, no, not necessarily on the tippy top. Well, yes, there was, but it also was going throughout randomly. And never, I remember it in front of my foxhole or to either side, but behind us. But it was still scary to hear that. I mean, I'm certain tones, I'm jumpy and I jump. I mean, I am diagnosed with PTSD and it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is sleeping at night. You know, even though I sleep for 7, 8, 9 hours, I wake up and I feel like I need to go to sleep. I never went to bed because my mind doesn't rest. I feel like I need to have a perimeter around my house with guards. It would make me sleep better. It's crazy.
Well, you get conditioned to something in that situation.
And what I didn't say was after the evacuation and whatnot, and I was healed, I don't know how many days it took to do that, then they sent me out to another fire base, which I don't remember. It might have been Catherine, and I thought to myself, why are they doing this to me? I am just so scared. Why are they not? Chiarelli, we're going to put you in mortars. Remember, back in the States, we also trained you for mortars. So this will be a little bit easier. You won't be humping the boonies. You'll be permanent. You don't have to hump the boonies. And you could take a shower every now and then. It might be an outdoor shower, and you'll get an occasional hot meal. So I wasn't in the mortar pit. I was in a bunker that I could sleep, I could stand up. I was in, it was called FDC, Fire Direction Center. Yeah, so they put me, I did have training, and the guy on the radio talking to the guy in the field that needed mortars, he would give me some sort of numbers, and I had a thing and turned it around, and I would give him the core, and then you do it, and he'd give it back out to the mortar pit. And they would fire one. And then the guy out in the field called back, no, do 20 meters this way. So no, fire one. We did that 3 times, and then after 3 times, the guy out in the field would say, okay, fire for effect. And they drop maybe half a dozen rounds, and you know, and of course they didn't necessarily end in the same spot all the time. And then of course if he needed more, we started it over again. But when those guys called in, everything was dropped. You did it immediately. They needed your help.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was in, it was 81 millimeters we had. It was really funny because the NVA had 82 millimeters. And from what people tell me, our 81s could go in their 82s.
Right.
And we had a 50 caliber machine gun. They had a 51. And they were able, how did all this happen, you know?
That's very simple. It's an old trick the Soviets did even to the
Russia.
Germans in World War II, because that way they could use the German ammunition, the Germans couldn't use theirs because it was too big.
Yeah.
And that just stayed as a tradition. Okay, so now when you were talking about getting off of a Ripcord, you had told me off camera, and you sort of referred to it in passing here, at some point on Ripcord, you actually got wounded. You got burned on the face. How did that happen?
I did. That was the day we evacuated. That morning, 2 other guys with me, or 3, I don't remember, but we had supplies, mostly grenades, and I don't know what else, could be a bunch of C4 or whatever. But one of them poured the gasoline all over it, and I had the trip flare. And they started going up, and I started walking back out to toss it, and that's when they were saying, Chiarelli, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. So there was this big explosion, this big puff, but I didn't think anything of it. I went up to the top, we got on the chopper, went back to Evans, got off, and that's when the guy said, you go over to the medic now. And I said, why? He says, your face, left side is all burnt. And I didn't know it, but then I remember feeling a sting on my face when that poof went. I felt the sting, and I guess that's when I got burnt. And of course, I don't know. I said, I don't care. I don't even remember looking in the mirror. I don't even know what it looked like, but I told the doctor, I don't care. I just want to go home. He said, well, we're not sure if it's going to heal. I said, okay. And it healed, and then they sent me to Mortars, which was like being on vacation almost. You know, of course, I had to still stay awake and pull guard duty in the bunker because I had to listen for the guys out in the field if they needed us.
Right.
You know, so somebody had to stay awake. So we took our turns there.
Now, were you still in the mortar platoon for your original battalion? So were you still with 2506, or did they switch you to something else?
No, I believe it was the same.
Yeah, because they had their integral mortar platoon, and they've been based on Ripcord most of the time. But now they're in Catherine, or whatever base you were on at that point. Okay, so that's probably part of E Company, which was the support company.
Yeah. Right, yes.
Okay, all right, so you're with them now. Now, how long did you actually spend in the hospital before they let you out?
Maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 3
And do
weeks.
you remember how you spent that time?
You know, I don't recall, and I don't recall how my face looked, and maybe I'm supposed to not remember. But what I didn't bring into the picture was out in the field, I would do haircuts for the guys. Yeah, and they would just be on maybe an ammo crate that we brought supplies in. And in fact, it's in the book, I think on page 95. The author in the year 2000, his first reunion I went to, he was signing books, and that's when the book came out. I told him what, and he goes, you know, Mike, he says, I'm really sorry I couldn't put your name in there, but your captain, he said Borelli, Chiarelli. He says, but if it wasn't sure, I wasn't going to put it in there. But he made reference to it. So I was happy for that. That was pretty neat, you know, a little bit of history. You know, he made guys feel as though they were human again for the first time since they were back or something. And I remember and it was just fun because I remember packing up to go to Vietnam when I had my orders. I left home, and my mom telling me in Italian, which I kind of remembered. I don't speak Italian, but I knew what she said when she called me by Miguel. You know, why are you taking these tools? You are going to war. And I just felt the closeness to it. And here it panned out. I guess it was supposed to happen. And here now at the reunions every year, I cut hair. And they make donations, and it goes to the association. But a lot of guys time their haircut for here because they have to pay anyway, so they make a donation. And they don't have to, some guys, they don't have to pay.
Well, I've seen you cut General Harrison's hair. There wasn't a whole lot to cut there.
No, yeah, General Harrison, yeah.
That's good. So basically, you'd have a barber, basically how big was the kit? Just a little case? Or?
Oh, it was a scissor and comb, basically, or a scissor and 2 or 3 combs. Yeah. That's it, just rolled up in a towel.
All right. And then you just do this when you had downtime someplace?
Yeah, you're doing down, you know, the guys, cut my hair. Because when they had us go back to the rear of Camp Evans, there was this, I don't know, these people, they were VC, I don't know what Vietnamese.
Right.
And they would cut hair, and it didn't matter what you told them, everybody got the same haircut. You know, they used the clippers and just took it all off, basically. And I think it was 35 cents we paid for it, and it was in MPC. It looked like Monopoly money, military payment certificate. It looked exactly like Monopoly money. Yeah. But those were okay. Those were happy times, because I did that when I was in Mortars also for the guys.
All right. Now, when you were with Mortars, did you spend the whole time on one fire base, or did they move you around?
No, the whole time. The whole time. I felt like I was on vacation.
And while you were there, did the base get hit with mortars or probed by sappers or anything like that?
Nothing. Never.
Okay.
Never. It was like in support. That's what they did. We supported the guys out in the field. That's what they did.
Okay. And about how long do you think you were there?
Probably for 6, 7 months.
Okay. So really just the whole rest of your tour?
Just about, yeah. Yeah, 11 months and 9 days. At the time, Nixon was having us come home, so I got a 21-day early out.
Right.
So I did 11 months, 9 days, not 12 months. So any one day, anything, 1 hour, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you get an R&R while you were...
Oh, yeah, I did, and I went to Bangkok, Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for, I guess, a week or 5 days, and it was okay. If I had to do it over again, I should have went to Australia. But the guys come back, and they said, you got to go because of the women, and so I should have never went. I should have went to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't married at the time, so it was good.
It was a place where they were not shooting at you.
No, they weren't, and they were very nice to people. And I remember I went somewhere and got a picture of me with a snake around my neck.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guys had it,
Yeah.
probably the same snake, you know.
No, it was kind of one of the tourist kind of things that they had going there. Yeah. All right. Now, were you one of the people who kept a calendar for how long you were there, or?
Well, we called it a short time as calendar,
Mm-hmm.
and it started from 100 days, and you mark off each day, and you know you were short when you got to 2 digits,
Mhm.
99. Short. But we realized you really weren't short till you were on the plane back home to the world, as we referred to the U.S. as the world.
Mhm.
And I remember that incident on the tarmac. Everybody was lined up, and they said, okay, nothing would be said. Please, if you have anything, any kind of contraband, drugs, weapon, whatever, please empty out your pockets. And I was just so taken back at some of the guys that had live grenades, C4, blasting caps, trip flares, and most of these guys that had that stuff, they weren't infantry. They were taking it back as a souvenir.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, this was going to go on that plane if something ever happened.
Yeah.
But also people had bags of marijuana,
Mhm.
but they just scooped it all up and nothing was said. So I guess I'm here, so thank God nothing happened.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, did you observe much by way of drug use while you were there?
Very little. You know, my platoon, my squad, we knew that we had to be sane. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. No one did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was a good thing. New guys coming in, they did what we did. They didn't do it. You know, we heard about it a lot. When we were in the rear, you know, I saw it. It was there. It was out in the open. But I never messed with it. I
Right.
really never did. I mean, like my son one day, we were watching something, and there was this guy smoking this stuff with this big jar or something over here.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. And I said, you don't know what that is? I go, no. He goes, Dad, that's a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was.
Well, you couldn't have something like that in the field.
No,
It
no,
was not practical.
no.
Well, what about on the fire base? I mean, did you have people who would smoke there that you ever noticed, or?
Not that I know.
Yeah. Now, would you get a beer ration if you were on a base somewhere?
I don't recall beer, no. I do recall cans of soda, though,
Mhm.
which was really good. Even though it was hot, it was good. No beer rations, no. I believe in the rear at Camp Evans, I think might have been able to get
Yeah.
beer. Yeah.
But you pretty much spent almost all of your time out in the bush someplace, I mean,
Oh.
whether it's in a small fire base or actually in the field.
I did.
All
I
that.
did.
All right. Now, when you got your orders to go home, I mean, had you put in for an early out so you knew it was coming, or did they just offer it to you?
No, they offered it to me, the 21-day early out. If I wanted to sign up for 6 more months, they'll give me Buck Sergeant stripes. But like I said, I don't believe I would have done it even for $1 million.
Yep.
I just wanted back to the world.
All right. So you were talking about now going back, and you're lining up, and the guys are
On the
unloading
tarmac.
the tarmac. They've unloaded the contraband. You get on the plane, and then what was it like to take off and fly out of Vietnam?
Well, yeah, it was, when it was taxiing to fly, and kind of like when it was off the ground and rising, everybody screamed and yelled, and they couldn't believe it, and yay. And now we're short. This is short.
Mhm.
You know, not 99 days or 9 days. This is being short. You'll be back in the world in in hours. Yeah. And we were at Washington State, where I finished where they processed me out.
Right, so Fort Lewis probably.
I don't know what it was, but I remember one guy standing in line. We were in line for something and for process, and he fell to the ground and he was kind of shaking and happened to be medic. He was having an epileptic fit, but he was fine. They knew what to do. They put something above his tongue, I guess. He was fine. He came out of it, but he had an epileptic fit. So I don't know if he was out in the boonies and they took him, or was he in the rear that he did this job that I don't know.
That was kind of strange.
Yeah, it was.
Right. Okay, so you do now, let's see, and then once you were there, once you're back in Washington there, when they're processing you out, did they make another offer to get you to re-enlist or anything like that?
No, nothing. We were going through some processing, and they gave us clean clothes and stuff, and I think they said something, they gave me a card or something. They said, you've earned this, and this, but we ran out, we don't have them. But when you get back home, just mail this. And I did, and then whatever it came in the mail with whatever medals I had, which I wasn't sure what really they were for, other than the one that was obvious, a Purple Heart. But the other ones, I wasn't sure. I really didn't know what they were. I really didn't.
Well, you wound up with a couple of Bronze Stars for merit.
For merit,
I'm not sure how that happened, but somebody wrote you up somewhere.
Yes, they did.
So some officer was doing his job.
Yeah.
All right. So you get there now, but you're actually discharged there in Washington as part of the out processing now?
Yes, I was done.
Okay.
I was out.
All right. And now did you fly back home then?
Flew back home, yeah.
And did you do that in uniform or in civilian clothes?
No, I did it. For some reason, they had us wear all dress creams. And I remember in the airport, either Washington or when I landed at Kennedy. And like I said, I thought we were supposed to be proud and all of that. And then I remember people just walking in front of me and spitting on the ground. What's going on? And then I hear in back of me, baby killer. And I thought, I just got the goosebumps. I thought, I can't wait to take this off. And I didn't think, years later, I says, I could have went in the men's room, I had the luggage, I could have taken off my uniform and put on civilian clothes. Why I didn't think to do that, I don't know. But I remember when I got home, I couldn't wait to take it off, and it went in the back of the closet. I did not see it or whatever. And even I had 3 brothers, and one of them that was in the service, Korea and Germany, and I tried to talk about my experiences, but it was like it was nothing. It's like, and I just shut up. I just clammed up. 1971, and then I didn't do anything. Then 1991, I started crying. My mother-in-law had passed away, and I was continually crying on and off for weeks and weeks. And my wife said, "You're not crying for my mother, are you?" I go, "No, I don't know why I'm crying." So my sister, who worked for the IRS, my wife called her. She said, "I'll see what we can find out." She called back the next day. She said, "Tell him to go to VA hospital. He probably has PTSD." And yes, I did. I was diagnosed with PTSD. 20 years later, it comes out. And, I don't think you ever get cured of PTSD. I really don't think so. But again, certain noise, I try to explain to people that how I would jump or react to noise. A noise is generic. It's just a noise. It could be jingle bells. It could be a car screeching. Those are noises. But they produce different things, produce different tones. And it's the tone that causes me to jump. It's the tone of that noise. So, and I can't tell you exactly what it is and what combination, but it could be silverware clinging. It could be boxes falling, and it's just, I guess it goes back and I jump. It's really crazy after all these years, and I still do that. But someone told me that in World War II, Korea, it was either battle fatigue or shell shock. But they didn't know then it was PTSD. Yeah, they didn't know it was PTSD. Yeah. And my one sergeant, the black sergeant that I asked to get out of his patrol, a few nights later we were out in the bush, and he's out there with his squad, not me. And then we hear this huge explosion. He was setting up claymore mines, as we weren't allowed to say booby trap. They're pre-warning devices.
Right.
But heck, they did it to us. We need,
Mhm.
and he was setting it up with tripwire and whatever. And from what the other guys told me, they said he did it. He didn't want to listen. He thought he was done. He walked. He tripped it himself. It blew his bottom of his legs off, they said. And that same night, it wasn't dark yet. They planked him in, took him out, and wrapped him up. I don't know what it was. Punch. I don't know what it was. And I could still see his body doing this as the chopper was leaving, taking him out. And all those other guys that were out there, they came a helicopter the next day, and they took him out. Their hearing was just ringing, and and I don't know what happened to them. And maybe it was bad enough that they didn't send them back. But I also tell myself that if I was still in his squad, maybe I would have seen something that I would have said to him. But then again, he might not have listened.
Yeah.
He might not have listened. It's sad. And the first time I went to the wall, the only one time I ever been, I went to his name on the wall. And I just knelt down and I was crying. And I had this bracelet that we used to pass on to everybody. And I just left the bracelet there under his name. And my counselor at the VA hospital, I told him I was going. He says, from past experience, he says, what are you going to take with you? I says, I don't know, maybe I'll take my boots or my medal. He says, Mike, from past experiences, from other vets, they're sorry they left all of that. So don't just take all of it, and I didn't. I still have my boots. Wow.
All right. Now you got back and you said, okay, you just went into just for a barber.
Yeah.
And did you do that in New York for a long time, or did you move? Or
No, on Long Island, I got a job right away, and I started working, and I did that. Well, for the past 30 years, I did barbering, and I don't know what else. That's all I did.
Well, how did you wind up in Texas?
Well, my wife, she just wanted to come here for something. She always wanted to come here.
Okay.
And I said to her, I said, I'm scared to get on a horse. You know how stereotype is, just like they stereotype New York, that everybody's walking around with an Uzi.
Texas,
And I don't like to get on a horse. You feel like you're really high. And she goes, no, not that. Oh, I just want to go. And we came for a visit. We rented an apartment, went back to Long Island, packed up and moved. Yeah, 1977 we moved. And I can't get over it all those years. But I believe it was a good move for both of us. It really was good. Yeah, it really was.
All right. Now, aside from the PTSD experience and so forth, how do you think your time in the service affected you, or what did you take out of all of that?
Well, I didn't know I was antisocial till probably about 3 months ago. My son, who's 29, he's the youngest, he just he just said it right out, Dad, you're antisocial. And I never knew I was, and I looked at my wife, and I said, she goes, yeah, you are, Mike. And I says, well, tell me why. Well, you don't like to be with people, you're in company. You go off, sitting in a corner by a couch, recliner all by yourself, you're looking at a magazine, or you're flipping the TV, and you'd rather just be alone. And I didn't realize, and I guess I was, and I am. And I guess because I'm hurting.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm just hurting.
Connecting maybe costs too much.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I very much appreciate the fact that you're willing to come in and share the story today, because you tell your story well. You did a good job. So
Well, thank you.
very much.
I appreciate that. I was kind of nervous. I didn't know what to expect.